Hey, it's Amy Shaw, the Soul Whisperer here. What I want to talk about in this video is this concept of a tulpa and the pain body. I actually made a video, well, actually, this is the third video I've made about this. The first video I made about this was last January, January 2019. But this has been a really crazy year for me. A lot of stuff going on, and it's just kept me from being able to actually like edit and upload any of the videos that I made. So I kind of want to start fresh because that was almost a year ago, and I've had a year of growth and experience and sort of re-understanding this concept, and I feel like when I was editing the first video there was some things I wanted to stress a little bit more, so I thought I'll just make a brand new video. So here I am. The reason that I also want to talk about this is because this concept of pain body, I just hear it and see it everywhere. People are talking about it, people are making videos about it, people are writing about it. Pain body, pain body, pain body. Now, I just want to preface this by saying that this concept of pain body came directly from Eckhart Tolle, so it is relatively new teaching in terms of it's a new language, a new way of conceptualizing things. I also want to say I am not a big Eckhart Tolle fan. I do have one of his books, which I've read. I think that he teaches a lot of amazing spiritual wisdom. But like any spiritual teacher, I think that we have to, sort of tease out the things that resonate with us, the things that don't. And, we are living in times where we have to be so discerning with everything because we're bombarded constantly with information and new ideas and the next best thing. And, even in the spiritual community, particularly the New Age community, which I would consider Eckhart a big part of, it's pervasive. We just have to be very discerning. And so I'm not suggesting to like throw out the baby with the bathwater and just, ixnay Eckhart Tolle altogether. He just tends to not be somebody that's, sitting at my council table or somebody that I consider a mentor or somebody that I spend a lot of time trying to understand the teachings of. It's not my path. That's not to say it's not other people's paths, but I think that Eckhart's teaching about the pain body is particularly dangerous, and the way that certain people understand it and perpetuate it just continues in that same path, very dangerous. And so that's why I wanted to make a video and bring it to attention. And you're always free to disagree or to have a different perspective. Maybe you have a different insight than I have, and that's perfectly fine. I'm always open to discussing it in a civil manner. But let's start off by reading from Eckhart's own words how he defines what a pain body is. He says, as long as you are, and this is out of his book, The Power of Now, A Guide to Spiritual Enlightenment. As long as you are unable to access the power of the now, every emotional pain that you experience leaves behind a residue of pain that lives on in you. It merges with the pain from the past, which was already there, and becomes lodged in your mind and body. This, of course, includes the pain you suffered as a child, caused by the unconsciousness of the world into which you were born. Okay, I can completely agree with that. Definitely, trauma, I would call that. Pain, trauma resides in the body for sure. It stays as a memory in the central nervous system for sure. There's a lot of, modalities, therapies, in the allopathic, not just in New Age, but somatic therapies that are coming forth now to address, these unresolved traumas that a lot of people are experiencing. So, I mean, sure, this is a thing. I can agree with this. This is where it starts to get a little bit weird. This accumulated pain is a negative energy field that occupies your body and mind. If you look on it as an invisible entity in its own right, you are getting quite close to the truth. It's the emotional pain body. It has two modes of being, dormant and active. A pain body may be dormant 90% of the time. In a deeply unhappy person, though, it may be active up to 100% of the time. Some people live almost entirely through their pain body, while others may experience it only in certain situations, such as intimate relationships or situations linked with past loss or abandonment, physical or emotional hurt, and so on. And here, some pain bodies are obnoxious but relatively harmless. For example, like a child who won't stop whining. Others are vicious and destructive monsters, true demons. Some are physically violent. Many more are emotionally violent. Some will attack people around you or close to you, while others may attack you, their host. Thoughts and feelings you have about your life then become deeply negative and self-destructive. Illnesses and accidents are often created in this way. Some pain bodies drive their hosts to suicide. That's really interesting. I fully understand what Eckhart's saying, but now I want to read for you about what a tulpa is. And once I read this definition, then I'll start talking, a little bit about the relevance of these two things and the dangers here. What is a tulpa? A tulpa is an entity created in the mind, acting independently of and parallel to your own consciousness. They are able to think and have their own free will, emotions, and memories. In short, a tulpa is like a sentient person living in your head, separate from you. This article, and this is on tulpa.info, it goes on to say, you'll create a tulpa by imagining a person in your head and treating them as a person. The exact mechanism is unknown, but as you give a tulpa attention and believe it can be a sentient person, it will grow into one and act independently of you. And it goes on, if you're curious, to read more about, tulpas and how to create one. But you can see, reading Eckhart's definition of the pain body as a separate entity, he even names it, which, is an essential process of creating a tulpa. And then we look at what a tulpa is. It's actually a created entity, a sentient entity with its own will, its own, ability to operate. And so the danger here, as you can see, is that in essence, Eckhart is teaching people how to create a tulpa by identifying trauma, pain, suffering, grief, anything that we could put into this pain body. By identifying it as being something that is separate from the person, by identifying it as an entity, you're already giving it the power to create a tulpa. And then not only that, you're naming it. And he's doing this on such a widespread level because, Eckhart Tolle has such a huge audience. And so many people are out there, reiterating, parroting what he's saying, by making their own videos talking about the pain body. And in essence, it's just reproducing itself over and over and over again. So what Eckhart's really doing is it's like he's it's his seminal work of creating a whole legion of demonic suffering entities. The way that Eckhart even describes them as being violent and malevolent. Some of these, we might even, put in a class of demonic in a sense. That wouldn't be theologically accurate, right? Because demons actually are angels. But in terms of, malevolent suffering spirits, more that quality of what a lot of people might call demons or demonic, definitely that's what's happening here. And so you can see why I'm sort of raising the alarm and saying this is really dangerous. And it's not that, Eckhart's basic assumption about pain and suffering is incorrect. It's that he chooses to make it into an entity, give it its own name and energy behind it. That's the danger here. And so these things, once they become separate from us and outside of us and their own sovereign entities, they can attach onto other people and create all kinds of havoc in other people's lives, people around us, people we may not even actually know. And so, I'm pretty certain that most people are not going to want to be engaged in this. I'm pretty certain that they don't want to be a part of this. So what's the solution here? This is the part I don't think I stressed enough in the first video I made and why I wanted to remake the video. Essentially, the solution is integration. Pain, suffering, trauma, these are normal things human beings go through. They're normal things, that we unfortunately do to one another, cause each other pain and suffering and trauma. I wish it wasn't the case, but it's the world that we live in. Many, many people, have suffered trauma, growing up as children, by, other children, by siblings, by parents, extended family members. It's a normal part of life. And so a lot of people need to be on a path of healing, because if that trauma stays stuck, it causes them to make decisions and have behaviors that aren't healthy, and are causing the person to not live, the best life or the fullest life or the most complete and whole and healed life that a person can live. And so I think in essence, that's what Eckhart was getting at, at the beginning of his definition of the pain body, is that, yes, the trauma can cause behaviors and whatnot, but the problem is the separating it out. It's the rejecting of it and the separating it out from self and then giving it a power to actually be its own entity. That is extremely dangerous. So the resolution to this is to integrate it, to not pull out the trauma as if it isn't a part of you, but to actually own it, to feel it, to grieve it, to go through whatever process that you need to own it, to make it yours, and then transmute it. It's a process of transmuting all that pain and suffering into compassion, into wisdom, into strength, into courage, into all these other positive things that can come out of trauma. Trauma, pain, suffering, these things are teachers. They really are, and they help refine the character. And so it's not always a negative thing that we need to, disembody from ourselves and then, give it all this monstrous power. No, bring it into yourself, do the work, just do the personal work. And when you do the work, when you're on the healing path, and when you see the trauma from a different angle, as a teacher, as you see it as an opportunity to heal yourself, to learn about healing, an opportunity to develop compassion for other people that are suffering or in pain or have experienced trauma. When you look at it like that, it really diffuses the power that it might be having over you, and restores you to the position of having power over it. And allowing it to just be a part of you, a part of your experience, and a part of what makes you who you are. So essentially I'm saying, this idea of this pain body, this tulpa that Eckhart is teaching people how to create, is extremely dangerous, and it's not something that we should be promoting. Shamans know as we go into the spirit world, that the spirit world, especially the middle world, the astral plane, is just full. It is so full of these suffering spirits and malevolent spirits and dark energies and heavy, traumas and pains and sufferings. It's full of that. And the reason it's full of that is people are just ripping these things out, creating these entities, and just leaving them there to sort of run around and continue to perpetuate the problem of more trauma being created. That's not the solution. The solution is to, as I said, bring this into you, love it, nurture it, heal it, transmute it, essentially. Honor it for what it is, and there won't be any need to, give it power in that way, or to create an actual entity out of it. In a sense, you're just sort of dissolving it in a loving, compassionate, kind way. That's what I wanted to offer today. I'm curious to know what insights you might have, what you think about this idea of pain body. If what I'm saying makes sense to you, I'd love to hear from you. So as always, you can leave a comment below the video, or there's a dozen different ways that you can get a hold of me. And I hope that you have a very, very blessed day. And it's great to be back a little bit, into making videos and interacting with you guys. So I love you guys so much. Have a great day.